No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live, episode number 140. And breaking today, Nigel Farage refusing to back down in his dramatic war of words with the anti-white Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar over his plans for a Pakistani takeover of power, despite all the usual MSM outrage.
We are going to take over the country and take over the world.
He didn't say any such thing.
Well, he did actually, very, very clearly.
He did not say that the South Asian community would take over the country or the world, nor did he use the word prioritise.
He said...
Why can't I hear what you're saying, but why can't you just accept what he literally said and not mischaracterise what he said?
We believe what he said was a form of sectarian politics, and we don't like it one little bit.
So in my digest next, I'll deliver the receipts that prove Nigel Farage is actually right there, then explain why he's also right to take on this blatant sectarianism.
We will only truly get real power if we just have more Pakistanis sitting in council chambers and parliaments, but actually having more Pakistanis and South Asians sitting in the corridors of power making the decisions.
Then Tommy Robinson reveals all about shock government tactics to infiltrate right-wing marches to create fake violence.
The government have groups that they send into demonstrations to cause trouble, to come all dressed in black. They will cause confrontations, and then the media will be there, working for the establishment, to take pictures of violence and trouble, and then portray the entire group of people or the organisation as thugs or hooligans.
Lots more of that to come, and reaction from today's superstar panel, Reverend Canon, Father Phil Harris, and the independent journalist extraordinaire Lewis Brackpool. Also coming up on the show today, a growing Muslim handshake row after this very famous UFC fighter refused to touch a female sports presenter. There's outrage from Sharron, Davies and Colin Brazier on this. I'm going to take you through the whole thing. And Katie Hopkins slams the McCann parents as yet another search for missing Maddie McCann begins again. Then, in the Uncancelled Aftershow on Substack, Meghan Markle is humiliated by Beyonce's no-nonsense mother, Tina Knowles, on an episode of her own podcast. So I'm going to reveal all those mortifying lowlights with our Royal Mastermind Angela Levin. You can sign up to watch now, www.outspoken.live. At the end of the show, we will also reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, so don't go anywhere. But Union Jackass is up to you. Get voting now in the live chat on YouTube. Here are your nominees. Ed Balls, nominated by Mad Dog Photo for being allowed to grill MPs on Good Morning Britain when he goes to bed with Yvette Cooper every night. Judge John McCarver. And that's not him, by the way, because this is so weird. There is not one photo available, I am told, by my producers of Judge John McCarver. So he's hiding behind anonymity, but that's the man who he's discharged, of course, nominated by Big Mama Booth for allowing in blasphemy laws and finding Hamat Koskin guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence by burning his own Quran. And Anas Sarwar, nominated by Karen Hankey, who says, "We heard him say it," talking about Muslim Pakistanis taking real power. So 3 great options for you today. Get voting. Make sure you're active in the comments section too, and I will bring you those results and your best and worst feedback at the end of today's show. But now, let's go. For far too long, 2 Asian men who rose to the top of Scottish politics, the former First Minister Humza Useless and the current Labour leader Anas Sarwar, have luxuriated in blatant anti-white racism, despite leading a nation that is 93% white. Speeches like this, what I'm about to show you in the Scottish Parliament, were accepted by the woke MSM as completely normal without a second thought.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every prison governor in Scotland, white. Every editor of a news organisation in Scotland, white. Why?
Well, now the left-wing lunatics are being challenged by an insurgent Reform UK and Nigel Farage, who isn't taking their crooked and corrupt coverage lying down. Things are starting to turn really nicely. So Farage and Reform have boldly, and actually, in my view, completely correctly, called out Sarwar's sectarianism, which is leading to a total meltdown from the government-run media. So I'm going to tell you what Adam Schwartz, a lefty, how he summed up the exchange, which I'm about to show you. He wrote, Farage now claims that Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar vowed, we are the South Asian community, we are going to take over the country and take over the world. James Cook from the BBC rightfully states that Sarwar did not say anything to that effect. Well, he absolutely did say something very much to that effect. So I'll show you in a moment, but first let's watch as the British Bashing Corporation's Scottish editor does Sarwar's bidding against Farage, who was in Scotland, of course, and Farage, to his credit, refuses to back down.
To be frank, that Mr. Sarwar has a record of obsessing on this issue. There was the famous speech that he gave in the Scottish Parliament saying, why are the judiciary white? Why are, these leading figures in Scotland white? A most extraordinary speech, given the statistics and figures here. And actually, I think that speech that he gave was sectarian in its very nature. We are the South Asian community. We are going to take over the country and take over the world.
He didn't say any such thing.
Well, he did actually very, very clearly.
He did not say that the South Asian community would take over the country or the world, nor did he use the word prioritise.
He said...
Why can't, I hear what you're saying, but why can't you just accept what he literally said and not mischaracterise what he said?
We believe what he said was a form of sectarian politics, and we don't like it one little bit.
Well, I don't like it one little bit either. And luckily, we have the receipts. So I want you now to watch for yourself, listen to what Sarwar was saying.
We will only truly get real power if we just have more Pakistanis sitting in council chambers and parliaments, but actually having more Pakistanis and South Asians sitting in the corridors of power making the decisions. And that's where I'll end tonight, is to say the change is coming, and the days where our South Asian community are viewed as a vote bank or a curry bank are well and truly gone. The days where South Asian communities get to lead political parties and get to lead countries is now upon us. The days when South Asian communities get to decide not just which school our children go to, but what they are taught in those schools is also.
So I would say game, set and match there to Farage. As Reform supporting comedian Lee Hurst posted, he said it. We saw him say it. We heard him say it. And by the way, this wasn't Farage's only clash with the left-wing dying legacy media yesterday, as he accused the Scottish lefty newspaper, The Herald, of collaborating with Antifa protesters.
Now, Andrew Learmouth, it seems that you're involved with this group of protesters outside.
No.
Well, it's funny, isn't it, that you come and your newspaper also manages to have another one of your correspondents as a protest correspondent. So you knew more about this than we did.
That's not true at all, Nigel, sorry.
Really?
Absolutely not. So we have two reporters in Aberdeen.
Well, thank you.
Come on now.
And they're both here. Very
I've
good.
got two reporters going to Hamilton today as
so
well.
Much money and so many staff. It must be remarkable. Do carry on.
Yeah.
Have you? Right. Well, no.
Absolutely.
Well, no, fair enough. If you say that, I believe you.
I don't know that you do believe me, but I didn't. But I don't know what I was going to ask. Yeah, well, let's talk about the protest.
Well, this location was only sent to you guys. It wasn't put out on the public wires. We didn't put it out to our membership, and yet they knew. So it came from one of you.
We need more of that from Farage, but actually I'd like him to go much further. It remains a pipe dream at the moment that Nigel would ever post, for example, what Charlie Kirk did this week on X. Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. That said, it is obvious why there is now establishment panic in Scotland. Just look at how Farage was received there.
Good luck, mate. All the best.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what, we're stirring things up here.
Aye.
People thinking about it.
I think the most important thing is stop the boats.
Do you know what? No matter where you go in the UK, it's so unfair.
Aye.
We saw Saturday, 1,200.
Yeah, it's wild, absolute wild. How we're becoming.
Ross, our candidate here.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
We're becoming second, third-class citizens in our own country.
That's how you feel.
Yeah, wild, absolutely wild.
How's he doing?
Really good, really good.
Aye.
Thank you. Cheers.
Graham, what can I say? Have a look at that. Graham has made Reform UK. And there's no doubt about one thing, the SNP and Labour Party are bricking it.
And compare that to the utter derision that was greeted by Slippery Starmer.
He's only gonna fuck the country. Fuck the country.
Sir Keir Starmer was taunted at a train station after a delay made the PM late to his own press conference. One man sang a football fan-style chant at him when he spotted the PM making his way home. The Prime Minister was travelling back from his press conference in the northwest of England. Starmer faced a delay after the train from Euston Station couldn't make it past the first stop and ended up being late to his own conference. The man continued taunting the PM until a police officer approached the man.
Perhaps blatant sectarian politics and anti-white racism isn't working for Labour after all. Now, the Superstar panel. And I'm delighted to have them both back today. Reverend Canon, Father Phil Harris, and independent journalist extraordinaire Lewis Brackpool, who you can follow and subscribe to on YouTube, X, and now Substack too. So, Father Phil, surely Nigel Farage is correct to say Anas Sarwar is pushing sectarian politics in Scotland, and I would go one step further, Father, and actually say pushing anti-white racism too, given that this is a country that is 93% white.
Well, you just said it there, 93% white. There's no question that this is sectarian. It's no question that it's actually pushing an agenda. And it is the chestnut again, isn't it, of the Islamic agenda. And all of a sudden we're finding ourselves in this, it's doing what Islam does, which is subdue and divide. And the kind of this that Nigel was pulled up for saying that, the takeover, and it was very, very clear it was game, set and match, as was, as soon as we play the clips back. It's a massive problem. It is divisive. It is dividing the country, whether it's north of the border or south of the border. We are in a period of absolute division. And as Charlie Kirk says, there's an incompatibility, isn't there?
Yes, and that's what I would like to hear from Reform UK. Maybe we're getting closer to that, though. But Lewis Brackpool, I mean, it's very, very interesting, isn't it? Like, what a surprise that in a 93% country, there might at some point be a bit of a backlash if the two major parties are painting white people to be the problem behind everything, are pushing sectarian politics, and are, I think, actually often expressing racism. Oh, just unmute yourself there, Lewis. I'd say racism towards the native population.
Absolutely. I don't think people I don't think he got the memo from the first speech from Hamza Yusuf, where he basically just copied and pasted what he said. And there was a huge reaction to that when Hamza Yusuf came out and was, the famous speech, white, white, white. And clearly, I mean, it's classic, isn't it? It is divide. It is completely dividing with what he's saying. So Farage was totally right to challenge his speech, because he's focusing on one particular community, the Pakistani community, with the flag in the background as well, to push for this power in institutions. There was nothing about the Scottish people. There was nothing about Scotland when he's an MP representing a constituency within Scotland. So people have had enough of sectarianism. We see it on the streets. We don't want to see it within politics and institutions. People have just had enough.
But how disgusting, Father Phil, how absolutely disappointing that the BBC's Scottish editor, James Cook, comes in and does the bidding of Anas Sarwar and accuses Nigel Farage actually of lying, of misrepresenting what Sarwar said. Now, we just produced the receipts there. I don't think he did that, but it's just typical, isn't it? We know that the BBC is just an extension of the political establishment and the deep state, and are going to do everything possible to destroy Farage or anyone actually who challenges the Uni Party.
I've been having conversations with people over the last few days, and I can't get to the bottom really of the logic here of what's happening. You know, there is an absolute denial of reality despite evidence to the contrary. That to me seems a recipe for insanity. And it's not just happening once. It isn't a question of someone misspeaking. This is an agenda that is perpetually pushed and doesn't go away. And people, when they're called out, instead of going, oh, I got that wrong, double down. And so we know now that there is an agenda. And to be fair, the agenda has been effective, because the amount of people that still watch the BBC and still go along with this narrative is kind of quite frightening. But ultimately, you know, if you build on sand and lies and a pack of cards, it will come tumbling down. And we're at that cusp, I sense, right now of, you know, the whole thing, pack of cards, you know, falling down. And Nigel was quite correct in, you know, in absolutely calling out. But I just don't understand. If someone is wrong, admit that you're wrong. Don't keep trying to double down. And they're doing that. And I can't get my head round why they're trying to do that, because they will be found out. You know, be sure your sins will find you out. And as a clergyman, I absolutely know that to be true. You know, your sins will find you out.
Well, indeed. And that's why, Lewis Brackpool, thank God, people are turning towards outlets like this, independent journalists like you, who they can trust, who they know are funded by no one other than the readers and viewers. But I feel like the legacy media are just learning no lessons, Lewis. Like, before I get you to weigh in, can I just show you what happened on Good Morning Britain yesterday between Susanna Reid and Ed Balls and the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick?
Disrespectful to you. You made it all about you. The video was literally all about you.
You say that, but that's not what I've heard.
It's you walking around tube stations confronting people.
Well, the point
so
here
to
is,
say that
Susanna,
you didn't report what was said to you because you're saying you didn't want to make it all about you is disingenuous.
So it's a big national issue.
Literally everyone you meet.
Yeah, almost everyone.
Literally everyone.
I was literally in the green room just now on your show.
So literally, and everyone you meet says they've seen a fare dodger. Literally everyone.
I think.
When you say literally everyone, do you mean literally not everyone?
It's a turn of phrase, Ed.
Okay, fine. But turn of phrase is entirely false.
No, because actually, almost everyone I've spoken to has said this. Even somebody just now in the green room, one of your producers, came up to me and said, "Thank you for doing the video. I've seen it myself. I think it is a massive national problem." You've seen it, Ed. I know. And it's bigger than this.
So, Lewis, you've got Labour client journalist Susanna Reid, who tries to paint Sadiq Khan's London as some type of utopia, despite the fact she's admitted being mugged herself. And then Ed Balls, who literally goes to bed every single night, poor man, with the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. Not that she's that lucky either, let's be honest about it. And they are trying to do down Robert Jenrick for what? Calling out blatant antisocial behaviour, which is actually a sign of a society in decline. But he's the bad guy. He is the bad guy, Lewis, according to Good Morning Britain, Robert Jenrick. Not the fare dodgers, not Sadiq Khan. The bad guy is Robert Jenrick.
Well, I would like to say Robert Jenrick is doing fantastic work these days. I'm actually very, impressed. Very, very, very impressed with what he's doing. He's really highlighting issues and really pushing windows, and of course really just calling out what is happening. So I'm very, very impressed with that. It isn't really surprising that the mainstream media are acting like this. I'm not even surprised really with the attitude, but could it be that they're breaking Ofcom rules with this, considering who Ed Balls is and who he's associated with, and he's interviewing the shadow secretary.
Oh, yeah, but you know the off-communists. The off-communists only give a damn. The off-communists only give a damn if you were a small c conservative in any way. If you are at all on the left, if you're working for LBC, if you're David Lammy, if you're Angela Rayner, if you're James O'Brien, if you're Susanna Reid, they do not give a damn. And that's why I am very, very clear there should be no state censorship of the media, because state censorship of the media only leads to one side being censored.
Exactly. And, we've all had our run-ins with Ofcom. I've sent off many, of course. Yeah, absolutely. You've got more experience than most of us, to be fair. But, I've been trying to get to the bottom of Ofcom and, the way that they run things as well through FOI requests, trying to figure out, how inconsistent they are. You remember, of course, Mark Stein as well, who was punished by Ofcom, but they never, ever give a damn about the complaints being sent into these particular shows where clearly there's a bias, clearly there's a breach against Genric, and of course other guests who are conservative or just on the right. I'm so sick and tired of it. Everyone's sick and tired of the hypocrisy, and I'm hoping that, they'll meet more backlash soon and there'll be applied more pressure to the institutions, because they're failing the public. People have had enough. People don't trust these organizations anymore. That's why people are turning to people, just every man on the street, even citizen journalists.
I love it.
That are out just pointing a camera and talking about things.
I would trust a citizen journalist on the scene far more than I would trust a journalist from Woke ITV or the British Bashing Corporation on the scene. By the way, Lewis, you mentioned Mark Stein. I've got to just give a little push to my Substack, www.outspoken.live. World exclusive interview with Mark Stein available there. The first time that he's spoken about in terms of his battle with the off-communists, his cancellation from GB News, who he believes was trying to kill him. It really is worth watching. And Substack, such an amazing community. www.outspoken.live. Please do join in. Developing right now, newly released Tommy Robinson is starting to reveal some of the British government tactics that I have always suspected were being used in the aftermath of the Southport massacre to try and present the so-called riots as something that they were not. This is, of course, a narrative we've discussed a lot here at Outspoken. Alex Phillips, for example, is also a big believer in this. Effectively, you cannot trust the fact that the people who were causing the trouble, especially if they were masked, were not either Antifa plants or government plants. Now, in one of his first major interviews since leaving prison with Andrew Eborn of Octopus TV, Tommy Robinson has exposed far more about this. Watch here.
I look at things maybe like they're a trailer to a film, but I feel like I've done my apprenticeship. Yeah. I've learned a lot. I know where I made mistakes. I've certainly... Do you know when we used to hold demonstrations? We'd allow ourselves to be infiltrated. We'd allow the government... If you want to Google Special Demonstration Squad, the government have groups that they send into demonstrations to cause trouble, to come all dressed in black. They will cause confrontations, and then the media will be there, working for the establishment, to take pictures of violence and trouble, and then portray the entire group of people or the organisation as thugs or hooligans. I've learned that with the English Defence League. So now on our demonstrations, we won't allow face coverings. Anyone who comes to us, our events, and people say, I worry about my job, well, stay at home. Please, because you're going to take away the message, the importance of the message. We tell people now, bring your smiles. Don't bring face coverings, bring your smiles. We're going to celebrate. We're not ashamed of who we are. We're not ashamed of what we stand for. We've got nothing to be embarrassed about. So that's our message. And we want to have fun at the same time.
Much more from that Tommy Robinson interview in just a moment. But my superstar panel is here now. Lewis Brackpool, Reverend Canon, Father Phil Harris. I should say, by the way, Andrew Eborn did say, look, I know that's not up to my usual technical standards. The interview just happened and it was actually Tommy Robinson's son filming the whole thing on his iPhone. So that's actually just a little bit of colour about why the sound quality and stuff wasn't great. But Father, absolutely fascinating. You know, I have never trusted what the deep state and the political establishment and the mainstream media said after the Southport massacre. It was very, very obvious that some of those so-called riots were infiltrated because, of course, the findings, the official findings from the reports is that there was no far right operating in terms of those protests, which in some cases turned ugly. So it's fascinating, isn't it, listening to what Tommy Robinson had to say about it there?
I think Tommy has just highlighted what we know and what we've known and what we worked out. And so, you know, we go back, what was it, years ago, the special demonstration squad that was operating with the within the Greater London Metropolitan Police Service, and so you've always had this kind of deep state stuff going on, but straight away with Southport things did not add up, and I think everybody can see that it didn't add up, and so even down to you know, the fact that when Axel Radicabana pleaded guilty, so things didn't come out in court, there's been all kinds of things that have, you know, that just are not right. And you look at the riots that happened at Hare Hills, and you look at some of the stuff that's gone on before, and then to brand people far right. I mean, see, that was the point where in some respects I came to notoriety and sticking my head above the parapet and speaking out, because this was just morally wrong. Something, you know, people were painted with a brush and that was clearly deflection, and to hide something that was far more sinister. And people are all aware of that now. But, you know, what's really concerning to me is the people that are protesters, the people that are demonstrating peacefully, are typically your typical Brit, and then all of a sudden you have these people turn up that are fit, muscular, with balaclavas, and I would actually be saying, you know, there aren't many typical English people or people who care about this country that have a balaclava tucked at the back of their wardrobe and pull them on. So when these kind of, and there's pictures there that were just shown to the viewers, there's just something not right where these people turn up in balaclavas. And Tommy's right, you know, for me, I have never hidden who I am and what my role is and what I do, and I would never do that because it's about integrity. And so when I've actually stood up in the public square and the public space for integrity, I don't see the people that are walking with me as wearing balaclavas, because they don't. If you're wearing a balaclava, there is something sinister about you. You're seeking to hide your identity. And why are you involved and trying to tar the brush of ordinary people with being far right? Because that isn't the people that are protesting and are concerned about the nation right now. If you're wearing a balaclava, that is absolutely not what the typical average Brit is doing.
Lewis Brackpool, what did you make of what Tommy had to say about the potential infiltration of the protests or the so-called riots?
So I've actually reported on this before. So I brought some notes actually to give your viewers a bit more context.
Great.
There's something called the Covert Human Intelligence Sources Act of 2021. It's often referred to as the Spy Cops Law. This legislation legalizes the use of undercover agents, including within protest groups, and grants them the power to commit criminal offences with prior authorization. And it applies to organisations like MI5, the police, HMRC, and other state bodies. It's used mostly for intelligence sources and can be authorized to commit crimes where it's deemed necessary for things such as national security, preventing disorder, protecting economic well-being. There's no explicit list of what crimes are permitted, including potentially serious offences, and it does not require judicial approval, only internal authorization. So human rights organizations and civil liberty organizations have banged the drum about this for quite some time. And this has been going on for a long, long time, all the way back since even pre this particular act, all the way back to maybe even the late 60s, early 70s, and has continued. But there is legislation out there that you can read which gives them permission to do so. We just don't know who, and we don't really know like what the agenda is really behind that. It's all coated with things such as national security or preventing disorder or protecting economic well-being.
That in those critical moments, they will lie to us. And actually, in this other moment from the interview, that's what Tommy Robinson comes onto, because it's the fact that now, as a result of all of this, we're just never going to believe what the legacy media, what the MSM tell us. Watch this.
As you know, is on my show all the time. And he talked to me in this for viewed you as the new Mandela. What do you think about that?
I was very happy to hear positive comments coming from people all over the world. I think that there's been a shift where people who wouldn't mention my name now feel free to mention it. People who wouldn't show support now feel free to show support. And if they're telling you negatively to think about a certain group and certain people, then question why. And all we're asking is people question. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything I say, but I'm happy to debate and discuss my opinions.
If this is the last interview you ever did, what would you like to say to people about the real Tommy Robinson, how you'd like to be remembered?
Not perfect, an average man, just honest in the sense of it. I don't have, and I say, I've never pretended to be anything I'm not. I'm a working class kid from Luton Town. I've seen the problems. Do you know what I'm guilty of? Being a decade ahead. That's it. I'm guilty of being a decade ahead. Never believe the media. They have a narrative to push, they have an agenda. The whole reason I was deplatformed and censored is because they don't want you having the other side of the story. They actually don't want you being able to make your own mind up. And this attack on me, and it's not just on me, like I think when COVID hit, I think people realised people were happy when it was us getting censored. All of a sudden they started censoring doctors, nurses, medical professionals. The net just went wider and wider. You may think you're on the right side of free speech today, but so long as you allow globalist agendas to dictate what free speech is, and corporations above governments to decide what you can and can't say, whether it be the European Union or any of these things, with their new hate speech policies or whatever they're bringing in to control the story and the narrative, then you may find yourself, you might think you're on the right side of free speech now, but at some point you're going to find yourself on the wrong side. And I think free speech, this all comes down to free speech. It all comes down to their attack to censor me is about censoring you. Yeah, they may want to attack me, but that's so that you don't get the story. And just let the public make their own mind up.
Tommy, welcome out.
Fascinating, isn't it, Father Phil? But I think we can all agree here that there is no free speech in the United Kingdom. That is a huge issue. But he is right, isn't he, to say that actually, because of what happened with COVID, because of what happened with Southport, because of what happened with Brexit, that trust has now been smashed, potentially forever. It's not a bad thing, although it obviously does pose challenges at certain times.
So I think that governments were getting away with the narrative up until we arrived at Brexit, and we saw the vote, which I think, which we know shocked the political establishment. And then we saw the absolute refusal of the Uni Party to enact that vote and to enact that vote properly and fully. And then we have constantly seen then the levels that people will go to produce a narrative that is far from an actual narrative. And people have worked it out. And the question is, where are we, where is this going to take us? Because the Uni Party is over. And I think you and I, Dan, have talked about this lots in the past. The Uni Party is over. The question is, what comes next? And what does that look like, what comes next? People don't trust politicians anymore. And, you know, so even good politicians are being tarred with a brush because, you know, if you keep behaving in a certain way and your profession, and that's part of the problem, we have professional politicians
just
now,
like journalists.
we don't have servants.
Absolutely.
We don't have servants.
Because it's like the good ones are maybe so few and far between, and we have been let down by this complete breakdown in trust. I mean, Lewis Brackpool, to me, it all comes down to immigration. I mean, I was actually re-watching the other night some of the coverage before the Brexit vote, when there was a huge arrogance, of course, from the mainstream media and the establishment that this was just never going to happen. But they always knew that this was about immigration. But indeed, the British public have been ignored on immigration, and I'm talking about legal immigration here, for 6 decades, you know, since Enoch Powell.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, you know, echoing what Phil said as well about, you know, Brexit. And I still remember, you know, being involved in politics back in, you know, sixth form days, during the Brexit sort of time, during the Cameron era. And I distinctly remember going on social media the day after the results came in, and I voted to leave. And everyone who voted to remain that went to my sixth form, and you had family, you had peers, the visceral reaction towards anyone who voted leave. I'd never seen anything like it before. I'd never seen social media blow up in that way. And that sort of set the precedent in the United Kingdom to say, yeah, actually, you can treat people who have an opposite view to you with such visceral and hatred. And that has continued since that. It's continued and exacerbated since Trump as well. Anyone who supported Trump in 2016 was labeled, I don't know, a racialist, you know, homophobe, transphobe, all of these phobes and ists. And people have been vindicated along the way with both Brexit and Trump with regards to narratives, you know. So it's the letdown. It's also the nudge towards the public and how people should conduct themselves on social media. Oh, if you have a dissenting opinion upon the status quo or particular narratives, no, you should be encouraged, or other people can be encouraged to just be so visceral against others. And I didn't grow up like that. I'm sure you gentlemen didn't either. You know, you could still go to the pub and have a pint with someone, even if you disagreed with them. That was just how things were done. But now we live in an era where the visceral and hatred towards another is almost encouraged by the state, by the media, and that's why people are logging off.
Indeed. And look, what's so interesting, of course, is that it's no surprise that we're in this state when we look at the types of people who are in power. I mean, our scumbag prime minister, I really do mean that, is a liar, but he's also a human rights lawyer. And that might sound good to some people, but, you know, being a human rights lawyer actually means that what you usually do is you protect the human rights of anyone other than your native population. And we're in this astonishing situation where we have an Attorney General, Richard Hermer, very close friends with Slippery Starmer, who has made choices throughout his career that I think mean that it's actually shocking that he's in the position he is in now. And of course, the pressure is piling on him for a whole load of reasons, including the fact this week that we learned that he personally approved the prosecution of Lucy Connolly, for example. And Robert Jenrick, who is doing incredible work, has a very bold video out just today. It's incredibly instructive, also really entertaining, about exactly why the UK's Attorney General is such a nefarious force. Watch this.
That Keir Starmer's Attorney General, Lord Hermer, represented all these clients. He says cab rank rule, and it's a vital legal principle. Gary, what's the cab rank rule?
It means the first cab of any rank must take the first customer.
Easy. And it's the same for many lawyers. Criminal barristers can represent people accused of horrific crimes because everyone knows they had to take the case. What's true for our criminal barristers just wasn't true for Lord Hermer. He was a top human rights lawyer. He would have been inundated with cases, able to choose the pick of the bunch. And what's more, he often worked on a pro bono or no win, no fee basis. And the cab rank rule just doesn't apply to these cases. In other words, when Herma's cab arrived, he chose his passengers. Jerry Adams, not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda, including 2 of Osama bin Laden's lieutenants, 1 linked to 9/11 and 1 to 21/7. The mother of an ISIS beetle, Shamima Begum, Caribbean nations demanding reparations, and an Eritrean man who was here illegally, who claimed to be 16, who was actually 26. If someone wants to spend their life defending Britain's enemies, that's on them and their conscience. But that someone shouldn't be chosen to be our Attorney General. We've never had an Attorney General so connected to so many people suing the British government. Now, before the general election, Herma represented 5 Sri Lankans seeking asylum in the United Kingdom. They lost the case. After the election, they were granted asylum in a special deal. Now, even if all the correct procedures were put in place on conflicts of interest, even the perception of this kind of stuff damages public trust. Last week, people called for Herma to resign after he likened those criticising the ECHR to the Nazis. But the truth is, Starmer should never have appointed him in the first place. And why did he? Because they share exactly the same views. Britain deserves better than the pair of them.
They're BFFs. They're BFFs. And I think when you look at that, it's very hard to conclude anything other. What I have concluded long ago about this man, that he hates Britain. I mean, Father Phil, how on earth can this be our Attorney General?
Okay, so I think we have a problem, Dan, and it goes back a lot further than what's apparent. The question that I would ask is, what is true north? What, in terms of our principles, is true north? And so this country was founded, and I will say this as a Christian, on Christian laws, the 10 Commandments and Christian principles. What we have done is we've replaced that which we know to be right, that which is, you know, where we honor our fellow neighbor, and we keep consistent laws. They have been replaced with this kind of woke nonsense and ideologies of what's right. And we've ended up now in the sense that we have people like Lord Herma who are actively working against the British people. And when you consider Chagos, Jerry Adams, reparations, Al-Qaeda terrorists, Shamima Begum, all these people that are contrary to our way of life. And we actually have this character who is proud to represent them and seems to have picked up, the cab rank rule just has gone out the window for him. And we mustn't forget that he is Keir Starmer's donor. He's a donor, a significant donor. And so we've just lost what true north is and what true values are. And we end up with this nonsense and this man who is morally bankrupt. And I will go out there and go, that man is absolutely morally bankrupt. And I think things are going to come out in the not too distant future about some of the people that he's actually defended that we haven't even actually discovered yet. And, it brings us on to Lucy Connolly, and you know what I feel about the situation with Lucy Connolly. And, I put an X out yesterday. We just had people who were involved in riots in Birmingham who had a minimal sentences for actually rioting and actually causing grievous bodily harm. And they've had like these just really incredibly light sentences. And Lucy, the person who is suffering in all of this, is Lucy's 12-year-old daughter. And this man, Lord Herma, has presided over that atrocity. And God help him, because at some point he's going to get his comeuppance, and he's going to stand in front of a higher power, and it's not going to go well with him. He needs to go, but there's something very, very, very wrong about this man.
Very well put, Lewis. Do you want to weigh in on Herma?
Yeah, well, we've all many of us have long suspected that people who are actually running our country is potentially an activist class, a judge class as well. So Robert Jenrick is definitely over the line with this. And once again, extremely impressed with Jenrick's work and his tenacity for pushing for this. I'm shocked. Where was this 4 years ago is kind of my first question, really.
I know. And look, I know there are so many issues with the uni party, as we discussed earlier. I get that. But if Jenrick is doing good work, I'm going to celebrate it. And I absolutely think that this was amazing work. And I give him credit for it. Breaking today, growing fury over the awkward moment when our devout Muslim UFC legend refused to shake the hand of a female TV presenter, but was more than happy to shake the hands of all of her male counterparts. How long are we in the West going to act as if this is acceptable? How long in the West are we going to say that some of the shocking ways that the religion of Islam treats women, treats gay people, is something that should just be shrugged off? Because, diversity, inclusion. Let me take you through the story and then we'll look at what happened and the growing outrage behind it. So this is the headline in the Mail today. The awkward moment, devout Muslim UFC legend Khabib Nurmagomedov refuses to shake Champions League final TV host Kate Scott's hand after greeting all of her male colleagues during a Champions League TV segment on account of his faith. Their reporting continued. The football world converged in Germany on Saturday night as the Allianz Arena hosted the 2025 Champions League final between PSG and Inter Milan. CBS Sports covered the action with their regular punditry trio of Thierry Henry, Jamie Carragher and Mika Richards, and presenter Scot. After the Parisians' crushing 5-0 victory, the group were joined at pitchside by popular streamer and the UFC icon. As the undefeated former fighter made his way over to his group, he embraced each member individually before declining a handshake from Scot as her hand remained awkwardly outstretched. Nurmagomedov then appeared to clarify his refusal to the presenter, previously known as Kate Abdo, prior to her marriage to boxing trainer Malik Scott last year, who subsequently apologised on air. I'm going to get reaction from our superstar panel, Reverend Canon, Father Phil Harris, and the independent journalist extraordinaire Lewis Brackpool in just one moment. But first, watch for yourself what happened live on air.
How was everything?
Wow.
How are you guys? You okay? Legends here.
How you doing? We got Khabib.
How are you, sir?
Nice to meet you.
Very nice.
Welcome to the show. Apologize. Thank you so much.
How are you?
Khabib, the UFC fighter, it is a pleasure to have you. We didn't know you were here.
This guy, me,
Yeah,
you.
You're a big PSG fan.
Yes.
Always have been? Lifelong?
Honestly, since when I was a kid, I was Real Madrid fan.
Okay.
What the hell is she apologising for? We are in the West. We are a Christian country. Are we now going to be in a place where women are expected to apologise for standards that we believe are the opposite of medieval? Well, you can imagine the fury over this from good, solid people who don't give a damn what the woke class think about them. Peter Whittle of the New Culture Forum posted, "It will go on and on until people stop apologizing like this and call it out. Given the everyday nature of such a simple interaction, it is in the power of most people to object. You can stop this being normalized." The sporting legend Sharron Davies couldn't love this woman anymore. 4 words. This is not okay. Colin Brazier, brilliant man, Catholic man. If an observant Muslim prefers to withhold a handshake from a woman simply because she's a woman, that's his prerogative. But it behoves non-Muslim men who see this happening to respond in kind. If a handshake is only proffered to fellow men, let that hand go unshaken. And Sophie Kokorin. Henry Henri and Carragher are cowards here. You don't watch your female colleague extend her hand and be denied rudely only to shake that man's hand. That's weak men behaviour. So, Father Phil Harris, what do you make of this one? Was it on the Christian men there to say, that's not okay. If you're not going to shake the hand of our female colleague, we're not going to shake your hand?
So I think we need to probably correct the narrative. What actually happened was the hands of all of the men, Thierry Henry, Micah Richards and Jamie Carragher, were shook first. Now, the problem that I have is that because Thierry, he actually hugged afterwards after Kate's hand was refused. Now, my problem is here, there needs to be a very, very clear understanding. So there's no way I am shaking somebody's hand if they are not prepared to shake a hand of my colleague. You know, we've got to, you know, this is the West, this is a Christian country, and when you're in the West and you're in the Christian country, or you're in Christendom, you need to behave that way. And this is just appalling. However, the bit that upsets me is Thierry Henry hugging, because they were just starstruck. These footballers were starstruck. But Kate, the fact that she apologised afterwards and felt, I hope that she doesn't feel that she had to apologise afterwards, because that would concern me. But this is just embarrassing. We can't treat women this way. It's wrong. And you know, for as I say, Micah, Jamie and Thierry Henry, not to call that out, I'm really disappointed in them. But there was an order. They had shook hands first, and then it came to Kate, and he didn't take her hand. But there should have been a clear understanding. If you're coming on the set, you shake everybody's hand, and if you're not prepared to shake people's hand, then we're not shaking yours, or you know, or you're actually shaking everybody's hand. We can't have people, this whole religion of subjugation and submission, and you know, people being disingenuous to women and different sexualities, etc. It's wrong. We are to honour human beings, and I'm sorry, this is why we have a problem where we've got this incompatibility with Islam and the West, and there is a radical, you know, incompatibility, and you know, I'm going back to Charlie Kirk. He outlines it really, really well. You know, Islam is not compatible with Western civilization, and really there are three things, aren't there? And Charlie Kirk goes on about this quite consistently, and I do as well. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion, and Islam does not believe in the separation of mosque and state. And when you get to that last part, it means that there is a second tier, which is always women. And it's completely antithetical to the West. And you know, and there's no freedom of protections. There's no freedom of protections for women. And so I've got a real problem here. And you know, the treatment of Kate, and the fact, I'm just mortified that she had to apologise.
Yeah, Well, I'm really glad that you just corrected that narrative. And actually, before I get you to come in, Lewis, why don't we just take a look at that clip once more, just so that we can see again exactly how it all played out.
How is everything?
Wow.
How are you guys?
You okay?
Legends here.
How are you, sir?
Nice to meet you.
Nice.
Welcome to the show. Apologize. Thank you so much.
How are you?
Khabib, the UFC fighter, it is a pleasure to have you. We didn't know you were here.
This guy, me?
Yeah,
you?
You're a big PSG fan?
Yes.
Always have been? Lifelong?
Honestly, since when I was a kid, I was Real Madrid fan.
Okay.
Lewis, your view?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to say. I mean, to me, the customs of this, there was another famous video that had been circulating with Kate Middleton when an imam refused to shake her hand. And I think the hand was restrained, put on the chest, and then a bow instead. Now, to me, this gesture, I don't see it as compatible with the customs of Britain personally. That's my own personal view as a Christian man. I don't see that as completely compatible. Treating women as second-class citizens. I mean, even oppositions within Parliament would shake hands, for crying out loud. And to not shake someone's hand when you're technically at work, really. So I don't know. I really don't like that personally. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of this. If I'm totally honest, I'm sick and tired of seeing videos like these go around. I think Colin Brazier said it absolutely perfectly with his post on X, and credit to Colin for coming out and saying that. It's just you're seeing a real parallel between how certain either religions or cultures treat one another with regards to females, with regards to other men, and with regards to children as well. And it just, and that's obviously the broader issue. But you know, seeing this, I watched it and I thought, okay, there's more and more of these videos coming out now. And where are the progressives? Where are the feminists?
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
Where
are they?
Because the woke topians, if this was any other circumstance, I mean, you're right. I've just found that video of Catherine, the Princess of Wales, when this happened. I think it was in 2023, but it's another example of this. So let's just watch this, and you can see quite clearly that Catherine comes in, offers her hand, and I mean, the man is more respectful there, but you know, are we going to continue to accept this? I mean, my argument would be in that case, don't go to the mosque, Catherine. You know, don't go if they're going to treat you with that level of disrespect.
Absolutely that, Dan. I'm sorry. You know, we just can't have this disrespect. And it goes back to this incompatibility between Western values and Christianity and Islam. And you know, I'm going to keep speaking that out, and people, you know, are constantly saying, you know, Father Phil, you've got to, you know, tone this back. Actually, no, we have this massive problem with this incompatibility of our cultures. And one of the things that I said very early doors was a house divided against itself can't stand. And we've got this clash of of cultures. We've got this, you know, we've got two different ways of life that we are trying to bring together, but the one which is our heritage is being subjugated in the face of another, and that is an utter recipe for disaster. And there is no way of fixing that, you know, without there being a major problem. And you know, quite right, Dan. Don't go to the mosque. You know, and if you are not prepared to actually treat all of our presenters equally, don't actually bring that person onto on air, or at least make sure that nobody shakes hands.
I know, but it's just the horror, isn't it? It's just the absolute horror of woke and the woke mind virus, because that female presenter, she in that moment is thinking, oh gosh, I've done something wrong. I might be cancelled if I don't apologize. I might be viewed as being Islamophobic if I don't act as if this is completely acceptable. And you're completely right, Lewis, to say that there is a huge hypocrisy. I mean, it's not a strong enough word, but, you know, a massive hypocrisy from the left, the progressives, the woke-topians, who ignore this. So that they want to call out sexism in all other forms and push a DEI agenda, but they totally ignore this. And we do need more bravery. We need more people like Charlie Kirk who are prepared to speak up against this. And I thought it was very unedifying, actually, the entire thing. But look, do stand by, Lewis Brackpool and Father Phil Harris, because in just 1 minute, Katie Hopkins has spoken out against the McCanns as another search for Maddie gets underway, costing, of course, a load more money. This is a hugely divisive issue. We're going to get into it in just 1 minute. But first, you know I never recommend anything unless I truly believe in it. And today I've got something game-changing for you. Have you ever stopped to think about how crucial comfort is down there? Well, let me tell you, today's Outspoken proudly sponsored by Sheath Underwear, the revolutionary brand shaking up men's comfort around the globe. And do you know what I love about Sheath? It was founded by a US Army veteran, Robert Patton, great man. And he thought all about this when he was serving in Iraq back in 2007. So this isn't just any underwear brand. Sheath was designed for the toughest conditions imaginable. Patton was battling relentless heat and discomfort in full combat gear, and he thought there has to be a better way, so he created it. And let's be honest, traditional underwear just doesn't cut it anymore. Sheath's innovative dual pouch design ensures your comfort all day long, keeping things separate, cool, and fresh. Imagine your essentials being comfortably cradled away from unwanted friction and heat. Trust me, it's genuinely transformative. I love Sheath. At the gym, on long days at work, even just relaxing at home. I'm telling you, once you've experienced Sheath underwear, there is simply no turning back. They're stylish, they're supportive, and they deliver unmatched comfort. It's like upgrading from economy to first class, but for your underwear. And right now, I'm offering you an exclusive 20% discount at www.sheath.com. That's SHEATH.com. That's 20% off your entire order when you use my special promo code OUTSPOKEN at checkout. So what are you waiting for? Sheath, by the way, perfect present. Are you looking for a last-minute Father's Day gift? It really, really is good. And by the way, Sheath isn't just for blokes. Sheath is not just for blokes. You can see their incredible female versions as well. And you can see some of them modeled here as well when I show you the picture of Sheath as the first official underwear brand of the UFC. So you can click on the link below, visit sheath.com, make sure you enter Outspoken at checkout, and thank me later when you're feeling comfortable, confident, and ready to tackle anything the day throws at you. Sheath underwear, redefining comfort one pair at a time. But now, back to the show. Breaking right now, Katie Hopkins has led a furious campaign against Kate and Gerry McCann as the search for missing Madeleine goes on again. And of course, this is an issue and this is a criminal case that inspires huge reaction here in Great Britain. So many believe that it is irresponsible for this search to be continuing, for millions and millions more pounds to be pumped into Maddie. However, there are also so many of us who will never forget her disappearance from Praia da Luz 18 years ago. And just like Kate and Gerry and McCann, are desperate for some type of conclusion. So here's the latest from the ground today. Investigators are scouring an abandoned farmhouse near the home of Chief Maddie suspect, the German Christian Bruckner. The Independent reports that one of the houses was where Christian Bruckner lived at the time she went missing. Photographs from the site show the area is covered by dense scrub. The BBC has reported the search is centered around what appears to be an abandoned cottage. This search will run until the end of this week. It involves around 30 German police and forensic experts, as well as Portuguese police. And police are reportedly using ground-penetrating radar. Of course, it would be astonishing if there was a conclusion to this case which gripped the world when Maddie went missing just 3 years old while on holiday with her family on the 3rd of May 2007. Controversially, of course, Kate and Gerry McCann had left the youngster in their holiday home or in the room that they were staying in while they were at a tapas bar with friends. As a result, there are people like Katie Hopkins who are very openly opposed to the McCanns and do not believe that more police resources should be thrown into this search. Watch.
Police are off on their annual golf trip to Portugal, or as they call it, the hunt for Maddie McCann. Expect to see some officers looking around a field in Portugal with a wedge, hunting for clues. One thing's for certain, if a regular couple left a 3-year-old kid alone at night to go out drinking, they'd probably still be serving time round about now.
So let me bring in my superstar panel on this: Reverend, Canon, Father Phil Harris, and the independent journalist extraordinaire Lewis Brackpool, who you can subscribe to now on X, YouTube, and Substack. So Lewis, you know the Maddie McCann conversation divides people. There are those who will forever believe that Kate and Gerry McCann were either directly or indirectly responsible for Maddie's disappearance, and as a result, there shouldn't be so much resource put into this missing person case when there aren't for others. At the same time, the world does want to know what happened to Maddie. So where do you stand on this, and do you feel that Katie's criticism there is fair?
Yeah, well, to start with, this is it's a very horrible story. I mean, I still remember learning about it when I was very, very young. I was still in school when they used to play about...
You're aging me here, Lewis. You're aging me.
Yeah, so I'm 31 now, so I'm getting there. Yeah, it's a horrific case, and it's instilled in the mind of many people across Britain still. And those within Gen Z that are coming up are starting to learn about this case. I believe it was 2007, please correct me if I'm wrong, when this case happened. It was a long, long time ago now, but it still remains a very divisive topic. Lots of people have their own theories about what happened. I'm not going to go through them, obviously, and others are just very, very intrigued about what the results will be from this. But I think it's right, personally, to question the resources being put into this. I think that's a legitimate thing to question without going, of course, too far, because it is still a sensitive subject. So you have to be mindful of that when approaching these types of subjects. Of course, Katie Hopkins, classic, big provocateur, has been for most of her career. Is she correct? I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. But of course, it's one of these cases that a lot of people are very invested in. It's not something that I'm too invested in personally, but it's completely correct to ask questions and to have criticism. I think that in an open, fair society that we unfortunately don't live in anymore, we should be able to question these sorts of things, whether it be funding, whether it be why is it that the British state are pouring so much money within this case? Why not Portugal? These types of questions, while still acknowledging the horrific nature within this case as well. So I think it's right to ask questions, but you have to do it mindfully, in my view, and just to be respectful. But I can't tell anyone what to do.
Well, yes, because Father Phil Harris, I guess what we should point out is that even if you are in the group of people, and I know Britain is actually pretty evenly divided on this, having covered this case for a long time, if you're in the category of people who do have no sympathy for Kate and Gerry McCann, of course, Madeleine McCann was in that room in Praia da Luz with her twin siblings, who are now adults, as extraordinary as that is. And of course, no one can cast any blame or aspersions on Maddie's siblings. So I think that has to be remembered too.
So I love Katie Hopkins. For me, this was very close to the bone. And, so as a priest, one of the things that I deal with all the time is bereavement. What Kate and Gerry McCann have been denied is a closure and an ability to grieve and mourn because they just don't know. Now, I'm obviously being very general here because I don't know exactly Gerry and Kate. The reality is that people should have the ability to have closure, and that's the one thing that hasn't happened with the Maddie McCann situation. And my heart, as a priest, goes out to Gerry and Maddie McCann. However, we are talking 17 years, and there's a point where we have to bring closure, and there comes to a point that unless there is an absolutely solid lead, that we can't keep throwing millions and millions of pounds at this scenario and just keep something ticking over. And so my heart goes out to Kate and Jerry McCann. It really does. But we need to find a way to bring closure to this situation. And yes, people will say to me, there's no way that you see pictures of Maddie there, and what a sweet little kid. And, my heart just like, I find it very difficult. But hey, we have to get to a point where for them, we can bring closure. And that closure might be, we now have to stop this, investigation unless something credible turns up, because dragging it on isn't, I believe, helping them. And let's hope and pray that something is found this time round. But actually, my heart is to bring closure into this situation in some way or other. Does that?
Yeah, no, I think that's incredibly fair and also incredibly compassionate. I mean, I guess, Lewis, there is a financial thing here. The Metropolitan Police have spent £13.2 million on this investigation, Operation Grange, since they took it on. Now, of course, there will be lots of other people who have missing people within their family and know that nothing is being spent. There will be lots of people who have crimes committed within London where the police don't even bother to show up. So is it galling that £13.2 million has been spent on a disappearance that took place in Portugal 17 years ago? I don't know. Is it galling for you?
It's a good question. For me, I'm not as invested personally, and that's not to be disrespectful. Of course, my sort of area of expertise in politics and culture revolves around, corruption, government corruption, institutional corruption. So my angle is always from that particular area. When it comes to this case, I think it is fair to ask questions authoritatively and sensibly through institutions, reputable sources, to ask things like that. Like I said before, but remaining sensible and not going overboard, because you have to remember these two parents are still grieving quite clearly. It's been 17 years, like you said, and these investigations are still continuing. I can't put myself in the shoes of a mother and father that lost a loved one, especially a child. I would, if it was me, I can't actually mentally think of this, but I would have a massive trouble letting go. And that's just natural, because we would, as mothers and fathers, you would act like that, and that's totally normal. I do echo completely what Phil has said throughout his segment on this. It's very difficult. This is a very, very difficult topic, extremely difficult, because on the one hand, you do want to question the financial aspect whilst being respectful. And at the same time, you do understand that two people have lost their child. And it's 17 years down the line now. So I do actually echo what Phil has said, and I think it's completely fair what Phil has said completely. So I don't think I have too much to add, if I'm totally honest.
Let me just tell you what's actually... Oh, sorry, Phil, come in.
Yeah, sorry, Dan, I just wanted to say that Jesus said that one life is worth more than all the riches in the world. I think the criteria here is, this isn't about saving a life seemingly. This is about 17 years later. And so how do we bring compassionate closure to this situation? And of course, in reality, we know that unless Maddie's found, or knowledge of Maddie is found, Jerry and Kate McCann can't have full closure, but we have to help them to get to a point where they can live the rest of their days enjoying the children that they've got, and actually looking forward, and keep going through this. I don't believe is helpful.
No, indeed. I just want to update you in terms of what has actually been happening today near Praia da Luz, because the latest reporting from Portugal is that search teams, and this is obviously particularly grim, have been seen draining a well and also clearing areas of dense vegetation near abandoned buildings. So I guess the suggestion could be that her body would have been abandoned in that well, obviously so many years ago now. Fire crews appear to be using a winch to search this well, which is next to another farm building. And this is all taking place in a little developed area of countryside just a few miles from Praia da Luz, which is, of course, where Madeleine was last seen. Journalists are being kept away from the scene. Police are also scouring this abandoned farmhouse too, which is where Christian Bruckner used to live. However, I don't necessarily think people should get too excited, because they are thought to be searching up to 21 remote locations over the coming days for the missing toddler. Police, however, have erected a tent near the derelict farmhouse as the search continues. Crews were this morning using shovels, chainsaws, hedge trimmers, and pickaxes to clear scrub as they scoured abandoned buildings. Others were seen using a pump with a yellow hose to drain a well in that remote area. Reverend Canon, Father Phil Harris, and Lewis Brackpool, independent journalist extraordinaire who can be subscribed to on X, Substack, and YouTube. Such a pleasure to have you back on the Superstar panel today, and I hope to see you both very soon.
Thank you.
Of course, it's time now to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. A reminder of your nominees. Ed Balls, nominated by Mad Dog Photo for being allowed to grill MPs on GMB when he goes to bed with Yvette Cooper every night. Judge John McGarver, nominated by Big Mama Booth for allowing in blasphemy laws and finding Hamat Koskin guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence by burning his own Quran. And Anas Sarwar, who we obviously spoke about earlier in the show in the digest, nominated by Karen Hankey. And Karen said quite clearly, we heard him saying it, talking about Muslim Pakistanis taking real power. And your results are in. Let me get to them. Wow, this is interesting. Okay, wasn't expecting this. In third place with 15% of the vote, Ed Balls. The runner-up with 31% of the vote, Anas Sarwar. But your Union Jackass today, Judge John McGarver, for that decision really to introduce a blasphemy law through the United Kingdom, to the United Kingdom through the back door. And lots of comments overall coming in on the show today. In the comment section, Rago Yista said Ed Balls was so rude to a guest, smug look on his face. We have all seen shoplifters, fare dodgers, etc., powerless to do anything about it. Ed and Susanna are dummies. Teflon Sight said, I used to like Susanna Reid, but she has turned out to be a Liber Khan lover, and her partner on the show, Balls, shows a complete conflict of interest. Him and his wife, Labour Minister, make it a total joke channel. Suraki says Reform now need to recruit more talented experts into the party, and soon economists, military experts, and education experts. And Crusades of Power, speaking about our latter topic, says, why is Kate, referring to Catherine, the Princess of Wales, wearing a damn headscarf? WTF was she thinking? So thank you so much for all of your comments today. And I will also get to our Greatest Britain now. Sharron Davies, nominated by Fed Up Yorkshire for being a fearless warrior for women's single-sex sports. Congratulations, Sharron Davies. But just before we go, I want to bring Father Phil back in, because Phil Harris, you have been, and of course you revealed this on the show, you have been fundraising for your church building. How is it all going, Father?
Well, we need people to lean in a little bit. So, as you know, I was cancelled. You uncancelled me.
Yes.
But we've got now this opportunity to buy a building. Church in the community is thriving. We're having full houses on a Sunday, but we're up against it because really we need to be close to our target by the end of June. And we currently have about 30,000 hard cash in the bank and about another 70,000 of pledges. So we're 100,000, let's say, but we need to get to 260. And so for me to keep speaking out and have my own pulpit and have a building that is protected, and note, this isn't for me, this is for the community, this is for us to serve the nation from the centre of the nation in the West Midlands. I just need people to lob their 10 quids in. And, you know, if we have a fraction of your viewers who just put their 10 quid in, 2 coffees, 2 pints, and we have, saved a building, firstly, given me a home and Deacon Aaron a home to keep speaking out for the nation and holding people to account from a Christian perspective. And so just encouraging people, we really need people to come together this month, really, so that we are as close to as we possibly can be by the end of June. So look, £10, 2 coffees, come and help us out, save a church, give me a platform, allow me to keep speaking out. And of course, we'll protect that building as well. So it will be there for the use of the public.
Yes,
going
and look, we just flashed up your post on X, Phil, which you can find obviously at your X account. It's pinned up there, but I just will repeat the address for folk as well. It is democracy3.org/save a church. So you see it there, democracy3.org/save a church, or you can head to the Reverend Canon Father Phil Harris on X, and you will see that posted at the top of his X account. Also on my Substack, of course, you can watch our original interview, which really outlines exactly how this cancellation happened, why it's so concerning, actually, what it says about free speech in the UK today. And you can do that. You can find that at www.outspoken.live.
Thank you. Can I just say thank you for your support on this?
You've always got it. You know.
Yeah,
that.
and you stood firmly behind me. We broke it on here, and just I want to thank you, viewers. And we're for you, Dan, and thank you so much for all you do in terms of keeping free speech alive.
Thank you so much, Father Phil. Right back at you. So good to have you today, and we will catch up very soon. Father Phil Harris. Okay, coming up in the Uncancelled After Show on Substack, Meghan Markle humiliated by Beyonce's no-nonsense mother, Tina Knowles, on an episode of her own podcast. Honestly, this is mortifying. I'm going through it all with Angela Levin. So at this stage, we come off YouTube and Rumble. We move to Substack, www.outspoken.live. Back tomorrow, though. We've got a big show tomorrow because we've got Father Calvin Robinson and Alex Phillips together, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe right now if you're watching on YouTube and Rumble. Turn on that notification bell to be alerted to all of our new episodes. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.